There we go. Okay. So the three things: how to make tables, how to make manipulatives using Google Draw, and then how to change your page size and your page color are the first three things that we're going to go over. So you're going to notice that in these slides, lots of times I have a button that says click here and here. So when you click here, it will take you to a Google Doc tutorial. So this I found on Twitter, and it is a wealth of helpful videos. So all of these links are links to little videos that show you how to do different things. For example, here's change page color. So if you clicked on that, it would take you to a slide that has a little GIF that shows you how to change the page color. So a lot of these click here and here's are different examples of how to do things that I'm going to be showing you. So it could be wealth of knowledge, also could be helpful for your students if you're having them do different things. Okay, so also there are a bunch of different hyperdocs linked to here. Sorry for all my social studies examples, that's my area of expertise. So any of them you're welcome to take and make a copy of and change or use as you see fit. So first thing we're going to talk about is how to make a table with color. I'm going to open up this hyperdoc. Right, so we noticed that this hyperdoc is basically a bunch of tables. So how did I make all of these tables, right? And how did I change the color of these tables? I'm gonna let it load. And then if you have questions, you can put them in chat. I'll try my best to monitor the chat while I'm going through things. So if you've never heard of a hyperdoc before, right, they usually have 3 or 5 different parts. There's always an engage, an explore, and explain. Some people add and apply, where students have to create something and apply their knowledge, right? So you can notice that hyperdocs are simple for students to walk through and complete, right? It tells them click on the image, answer the questions, explore, pick one of the resources, and learn more. So to create a table like this, all you gotta do is go to insert, table. Doesn't matter if you make it too small, you can always add more columns, or too big, right? So once you have your table, right, maybe this is going to be my explore section, and maybe I just want one question over here. So you can merge your tables, right? So if I highlight over these 2 table columns, right, and I click merge cells, it's going to merge these into one box. So maybe here I would have my question that the students would answer. So when I start making a hyperdoc, I usually start by making my base, and I don't even worry about colors or fonts or anything. I just start by picking the content that I want, filling it out, and then I'll go back in and I'll add colors and fonts and pictures. So if I'm working on this and now I want to add another column, right, I can just insert above or below a whole nother column. I could choose to merge, right, these rows, these cells, right? So one thing about tables is that you can manipulate them to whatever size, right, you want by using that merge tool. So maybe in here I want to insert, right, a picture from the internet. I can go insert image, search the web, and maybe this is like about the Incas, so maybe I put an Inca and I scroll through to find a picture that I like, right? And I click on that, insert it. It's going to place it right in that box for me. So just some simple ways that you can edit your hyperdoc, right? Or start creating your hyperdoc by using tables. To change the background of the table, I'm going to just select the bucket, right? Once I'm clicked into that cell, maybe I want this cell to be a different color. I click in this cell, I select the little bucket, and I can change the background color of just that cell. So the best way to start is by creating your table, adding in your content, and then going back in, changing fonts or colors. Okay, so tables are always the answer. Manipulatives. I'm going to open this one up. So a lot of people don't know that you can create Google Drawings from within your Google Doc, right, and insert them. So this is what I was trying to show earlier in the SLAM. So for example, this HyperDoc, task 1 says double click on the timeline, drag and drop the events in the correct order. Spelled wrong. So if I'm a student and I double click on the drawing, it takes me to a Google drawing, right, that I created. And I am now going to drag and drop. I'm going to American spend, gamble in the stock market, right? I'm going to take this box and I'm going to drag it to the date. Oops. No, dragging it wrong. This box. Right, and I can, oh my goodness, why isn't it not doing it? I'm going to take the box, I'm going to drag it to the date, right? So as a student, I can manipulate these. As the teacher, I can create these different Google Drawings right from within my Google Doc, right? And once they have them in the right place, they can save and close. And now you're going to see their timeline the way that they placed it. So another one here is a graph. So if the student double clicks on the image, it opens up the Google Draw. They're looking at the graph and they're writing in the percentage of US unemployment. So adding a Google drawing into your slides is as simple as going to insert drawing. If you have already created one, you can go from Drive, right? Or you can start fresh and hit click new, and it's going to open a Google drawing. So if Google Drawings are something that you're interested in, I would suggest when you get the recordings, watching Sherilyn's session, because hers is all about Google Drawings and it has a bunch of examples. But Google Drawing basically opens up a little drawing pad. In here, you can add word art. You can add in images from the internet, right? So you might find, right, I might search for a map, right? I might add a map into my Google Drawing, and my directions might say something like label, I don't know, label something on the map. Right, I can change my font. Right, I can go through and change my font. I can go through and change the color or the background of this. I might even add in some text boxes for students, right? I could add in text boxes for them where they maybe have to put, maybe I have in here the 3 capitals that I want them, or drag and drop the capitals, right, where they go. So Google Drawing, we don't have a lot of time to talk about it, but if you're interested, I would suggest, again, watching Sherilyn's. Can students make their own copy of those embedded drawings? Yes, students can make a copy of an embedded drawing. So right, once I save and close this, it's going to embed it into my Google Doc. No, it's not showing up because it's white. I was like, why can't we see it? Because it's white on a black background. So when students open up the drawing, it's making them a copy because it's the copy of the Google Doc, right? So if I make my Google Doc and I put it in my Google Classroom and I make a copy for every student, then when the student opens up the Google Doc, it's going to have copied the drawings within the Google Doc because it made a copy of that entire Google Doc for them. So they will get their own copies. Yep.
Brianna, can I ask a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
Can they then access that Google drawing from their drive so that it opens in a separate tab, or does it always have to be edited and manipulated through the Google Doc itself?
Once they open up the Google drawing, they should be able to go to their recents and find that just that Google drawing. So it wouldn't always have to be opened through the Google Doc.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. So another way to make your Google Docs more interactive, right, is by adding these manipulatives using Google Drawing. And again, I apologize for all my social studies examples. So all of these are different examples that you can choose. There's also a video here about how to insert drawings. right, from into your Google Doc if you ever got stuck and needed to go back, right? Or if you wanted students to create their own, you could provide them this little video. So the third thing is how to change page color and size. So page color and size, I'm going to open up this revolutionary HyperDoc. So you're going to notice that this is a lot bigger, right? This HyperDoc, or this Google Doc is a lot bigger than a normal size page. So real simple way to make this bigger is if you go into File and Page Setup, you can change. So right here, this is tabloid 11 by 17. I can come in here and change the size of this Google Doc, right? So if I wanted it to be smaller, it's going to shrink it. It's going to look funny, right? I could make it different. So if you're making a newspaper project, right, or you want students to make a bigger poster, so you want your paper to be bigger, you can go in there and change page size in Page Setup. In Page Setup, you can also change the color. So this changes the color of the background of your entire document, right? So we can see that it's purple. We wanted to change it to a, pink. Now the background is pink. And again, this Google Doc is just one big table, right, where I embedded links to Edpuzzles. Students had to go through step 1. They had to learn about 3 of these revolutions. So they completed 3 Edpuzzles. Then they came back and they summarized what they learned. They explored some more. The good thing about HyperDocs is that, asynchronous or synchronous time is so limited that you don't have a lot of time to cover content like you did in the classroom. So by using HyperDocs, students are able to have choose which revolution in this example they want to explore, right? And then they're able to show me what they learned and have step-by-steps to find other information about that, right? And then step 5 was to create an infographic, create a poem or a song, or create a media campaign about what they learned. So again, they had choice, which revolutions they thought were interesting. They also then got to explore some more. And they also then had choice for how they wanted to show what they learned. Any questions about any of that? No, it's quick. 45 minutes is quick. So I also want to point out that down here in the bottom, it says click here for a folder of HyperDocs. So when I find HyperDocs, I save them because oftentimes it can be intimidating to start from scratch. And so sometimes I'll find one that I like. I think it looks pretty, but maybe I don't like the content. So I will take the colors, take the font, take the style, and then just change the content. So that way I'm not starting from scratch all the time. It saves me time. So this folder is available for you. You can come in here and find example HyperDocs by subject area. So I know lots of my examples are social studies, but in here there are other things like PE and math and world languages. So if you click in one of these folders, and this is constantly being added to, I don't even remember where I got this, but teachers are constantly adding new HyperDocs into these folders. So you could come in here and maybe the content is right, maybe the content is wrong, but you like how it looks and you just want a template. So you take it, you make a copy of it, and then you put in the information that you want. So I'm hoping when you have your sandbox time, you can either start from scratch or you can choose a template or find something that works for you and then edit it to fit, right? Because we don't have a lot of time, and I feel like especially in distance learning, we're constantly recreating things that we did in the classroom. So I'm hoping that some of these resources will help save you time. So there are bunches of examples in these folders for you. So the next thing is making it pretty, right? We often see things that look really pretty and we think, how did they make it that so pretty using just Google Docs? So there's lots of different ways that you can change your font. I really like this website. It's called Google Font Combos. So if I get stuck and I don't know what to do, I need some inspiration, I can come here and it has paired different fonts that look well together, right? Because when you open up if you get something off Slides Mania or off of Slides Carnival, right? They often will be a different font for the title and the text. So this website shows you different font combos that look well together. Because sometimes you get like stuck creatively. And the great thing about that is we have the internet. So many of these links take you to different places to help with fonts. So if you're looking for, like here's an Among Us font. It's a big thing right now. My kid's been making me play with her. So you can come in here and find different fonts to use in your Google Slides. Right. So lots of resources here for you to click around and use later on. Other thing is colors. I really like this color combo generator when I'm working on slides. I can upload an image. So say there's an image of, if it's a history image or an image that I'm going to put in my Google Doc, and I want to use colors that go along with that image. I can upload that image, and it's going to give me the letters, right, or the number to find that image. So I would copy and paste the yellow. I would go into my, oh, I closed them all. Let me open one of these. So if I wanted that color to fill this box, right, this pink box, I can go into my bucket. Oops. And if you click custom, the little custom, up here is that number. So I can just copy and paste that, and it's going to give me that yellow color that the color palette generated for me. It might look a little different because this color palette isn't exactly the same as Google, but it's pretty close.
Brianna, I have a question, if I can ask.
Yeah.
So basically what we're doing right here is we're just manipulating these Google documents. And is the purpose of it to get the kids more engaged so that way they can interact with it more and they can kind of explore, I guess, on their own, correct? Yeah,
so what I notice is that, so one thing is, like, I'm not teaching right now because I'm full-time teacher on special assignment, but I have been working with teachers on creating things. And I also have two 10-year-old, or I guess they're 11 now, two 11-year-olds at home. And I noticed that when something looks ugly or when something looks boring, right, they're less likely to click on it. Even me, I'm less likely to click on something if it doesn't look cute or if it doesn't spark my attention, right? So part of making these hyperdocs is something that students look at and it's appealing to their eye, and then they're more likely to be engaged in the material. It might sound silly, but I noticed that. So my daughter has one teacher who does, all her stuff is very well put together, the directions, it looks nice, and then there's one who's just boring on a Google Doc. She's less likely to go do those assignments than she is to do the other assignments.
Right.
So a lot of this is just ways that you can make your presentations or make your hyperdocs more interactive and more appealing to the eye.
Yeah, right. Okay. I totally understand that line of thinking for sure. So my next question is then, when you're creating the hyperdocs, because the hyperdoc is essentially a link to, I mean, you can link anything on the hyperdoc, right?
Yeah.
So do you think, like, in your opinion, do you think this would be better used for a single lesson or a unit, or, you know, if you want to string together a few lessons? I mean, what's your kind of thinking on that?
My thinking is that a hyperdoc should be able to be done by the end of the week, right? So if you have like explore, explain, apply, maybe, you know, in your Monday, they're starting with the explain or the explore, right, on their own time. And then maybe when you meet synchronously, you're doing something together, like you're reading something together or you're watching something together, and then they're going to go back to that hyperdoc. So if I was in the class, and some teachers that I've worked with on making hyperdocs, we've made them for the whole week.
Right.
So kind of, the kids are always going back to that, and they're filling out information and they're turning it in at the end of the week. You could make smaller ones that are, like, I have seen smaller ones that are done in a day. And when I was in the classroom, it wasn't distance learning, but oftentimes when I had a sub, I would have a day, like a hyperdoc that they completed.
Right.
during the class period. So it really depends on how big you want to make it.
Okay, but from the sound of it, it sounds like you're really embedding the 5e kind of concept within this whole HyperDoc, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, they tend to be 3 or 5e depending on how big you want to make it.
Right, and I guess it all depends on, it's all relative, right? So whatever you're teaching, subject, unit, etc.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
So again, let's see, we did fonts, we did colors. So these just help you generate better ideas. There's also images. Something that I've been doing a lot is making GIFs and making GIFs from your slides, which is kind of fun. There's also, if you need icons or other images, you can find them here. Unsplash and remove allow you to remove the background from your image. That way it's like doesn't have that white background. Like for example, if I went on the internet and found this, kiss and it had a white background, I could upload it into one of these and it would remove that white background. Another thing that I use a lot in my presentations is this Giphy extension. So from here, I can quickly search for GIFs or stickers, and I can embed those into my presentations. Templates are super helpful. So like I was saying, there's all those HyperDoc examples that you can choose from. There's also Slides Mania, Slides Carnival, Slides Go, right? That you can find slide templates to use. Maybe not Google Doc templates, but slide templates. And then always ask yourself, can I use a drop shadow? So you're going to notice that these text boxes I put on here, they kind of stick out. That's because they have a drop shadow. So if you add a text box or you add one of these shapes, right? These are just inserted, let's see, insert. I inserted shapes. These are call out boxes. And then I rotated them or manipulated them to be a certain way, right? And then I added a drop shadow. So when you click on the text box, if you click format options, you can add a drop shadow. So notice if I take the drop shadow away, this box is very much plain, right? It doesn't have that little pop that makes it look like cartoony, right? So by adding drop shadow, you can add some depth into your pictures. And also, I'm just kind of like I like things to look nice, so I spend time, or I find templates and I modify them to fit. So always ask yourself, can this use a drop shadow? Okay, let's get into some other things. So one thing that I didn't get to show because this morning was kind of funky because it was the first time that we'd done this and Jen was sharing her screen. Oh no, sorry about my dog. Come here. Go lay down. The neighbor is doing yard work, so that might happen again. So one thing that I didn't get to show that I was going to show was how to make, so we know a HyperDoc, generic HyperDoc, kids can go through whatever. We've really been talking a lot about how to make things more collaborative right now. I see it with my own kids that they are at home, they're on their device, they're disconnected from their friends. So what are some ways that we can make the work collaborative? So one way you can do that is by color coding your Google Docs or your HyperDocs, right? Color coding your tables. So let's see, I'm going to pull up this example. So all of these 4 are examples of HyperDocs that have been color coded so students can work on them in groups. So this one, right, overview, like you could make a copy of this and change the content to however you would like it, right? So I had group A. Group A was working on this document. Here was a political cartoon analysis. There was a political cartoon analysis that they completed with a partner. There was a background timeline, and then I had students, right? They were either the green student, the yellow student, the blue student, or the red student, right? So they put their name here in the box, and then they were responsible for answering different questions about the reading. So it's kind of like a jigsaw, right? So you're breaking up the reading. So this person was defining vocabulary words. This person was answering different questions. So you could also use this as a differentiation tool, right? You might give, I wouldn't say harder questions, right? But you might differentiate who's going to do what based on their learning style or based on their reading level, right? So you could tailor this completely and students wouldn't necessarily know, right? You would know that person 1 is this level and person 2 is that level. So they are working on this same document. They're answering different questions. Then they're going to be able to go look at the other questions. So they're breaking up the work so it doesn't seem overwhelming. So this was just a pre-reading about the Treaty of Versailles. Then they went in and they did a document analysis. And so in this document analysis, again, you notice the colors. Each person was in charge of answering some different questions about the document. And then in the bottom, they created a DBQ poster. So color coding your Google Docs so that students are chunking up the work. That's one example. I was going to show these in the SLAM. Let's see. There's another one. It was about the election. So students placed their names right in the boxes with the different colors. They watched a video. They each answered these questions. They answered the same questions, right? But they answered them in their box that was their color. That way they're able to see each other's answers, so it makes it a little bit more interactive. They explored. Again, they answered some stuff. They took a quiz. They shared their results, right? So they were able to go through the HyperDoc. They were then also able to work in their little group. And then at the end, they went into a breakout room and they talked and they made thoughts and predictions. And they summarized. So another way that you can make your HyperDocs more interactive, we often think of HyperDocs and we think of like that's something that a student does individually on their own, right? But you can, in Google Classroom, assign a HyperDoc. You can assign a document to a group of students. Let's see. So here are some examples in the SLAM of color-coded ones. I guess I could have thrown them in the slides. So one fun way to make your random groups is by using Flippity. So if you haven't used Flippity before, there are a bunch of, I'm going to open and show you since we have time. In Flippity, there's a bunch of different things that you can do. It's kind of fun. There's a board game, there's a scavenger hunt, right? And these all link to spreadsheets that give you directions on how to add your students' names. And so one of the things is this wheel of names I've used quite a bit, but one of these is the randomizer. So you can use the randomizer to make random groups. When you make those random groups, there's a video here that walks you how to do this.
Since we're on the topic of groups,
I don't know if you can hear it.
a resource called flippity.net. They have a bunch of different templates for different things that you can play around with, but I want to show you the Flippity random name picker and also group creator. So if you go to flippity.net and you choose the Flippity name random name picker and click template, it's going to open up a Google Sheet for you to make a copy of. So you're going to click make a copy. So you will need to be logged into Google in order to make a copy of it. So make sure you're logged into Google. Click make a copy. Might take a second, like it's doing right now. And it'll give you this Google Sheet and a place to put students' names. I'm going to put my students' names right here. So here's some students. These are actually teachers at our school. And you then have to click File, Publish to Web. So File, Publish to Web, click Publish. It's like the most important step. Okay, that's all you need to do. So then just exit out of there. And then at the bottom, it says, get the link here. Click get the link here, and there'll be a link. So click on the link. And it has all your names imported, which you can spin and randomly like call in students. But I want it for the groups. So it'll randomize your groups for you. Right? So if you want groups of 4, it'll give you 9 groups based off how many students you have. You can also, if you click more, you can get a little bit more custom with it. If you want, let's see, you want 8 teams, it'll randomize it. Like, let's say it makes your group, and you're like, nah, I don't like these 2 people working together. You can click this little button here, and it'll continue to randomize them until you have the groups that you're comfortable with.
So Flippity, it's a cool way. You can use that wheel of names. So if you're, doing synchronous instruction and maybe you want to call on students that way, you can use the wheel of names that way, like calling cards. So it's more visual on your screen. And then again, this random grouping. So if you're doing something like a collaborative Google Doc, you may want to use this to create your groups. And what I've seen teachers do is take a screenshot, right, or a snip of the groups, and then they made the colors based on the colors that Flippity gave. This is just a little GIF, right? But if I was making my Google Doc, then I might change the colors to those colors. I have also seen where they take a screenshot or a snip and they place the picture inside the Google Doc. That way the students can go there and see who's in their group. So that is just another cool tool for using or for randomizing. The next slide is just a bunch of different resources that are my favorite web tools to embed in a Google Doc. So there's Tour Builder and Tour Creator, which are fun. They allow students to create tours. So if you're doing, I don't know, something about World War II, or if you're doing something something about a place, I don't even, if you're doing art maybe, and you're talking about the Louvre or something, you can have them create tours of where things are. Sutori is another one of my favorites. It's a virtual, oh my God, I'm blanking, timeline. So you can have students, you can embed questions and checks for understanding in a timeline. Google Forms, of course, Quizlet and Quizzes, Edpuzzle, Padlet. ThingLink is really fun. You can give students an image and they can place pins on the image. So I've had students assign a different civil rights picture, and then they had to research that picture and place pins on the picture. Flipgrid, of course. And then again, down here, based on content, are some different resources for web tools that might be helpful for you. And then if you already know all these because you're an expert, you could click down here for even more, and there is a HyperDoc with 1 million different tools. And it's sorted based on the 5 E's. So if you're looking for something to engage or explore or explain, there's links to different tools that you may want to use, pick and choose through when you're working on making your HyperDoc. I also suggest don't give students something if you've never done it yourself. So if you're picking something that you haven't used, use it before you give it to them. And is there any questions? I know like 45 minutes is fast, and like that I have a tendency to overload information. So you can't embed a thing link, but you can link a thing link. So your HyperDoc might say, click this link to head to your thing link. Or you can even use thing links. I've seen teachers use thing links to teach like the ecosystems, where they found a picture and they've labeled the different parts of the ecosystem for science, or they've had a cell and students had to label the parts of a cell. So you would embed it as a link into your Google Doc. We have a couple minutes before break. Anything that you want me to go over again, or questions that you have? I think we have some new people from last time. So there's the sign in if you came after I was talking, and then there's the slides. It was a
Brianna, have you seen, I've used Google or HyperDocs all last semester, but I set them up as a different kind of set of questions and links for each day. So more as like a weekly agenda. Mm-hmm. Have you seen a lot of these things, or kind of like the 5 E's or any of the E's incorporated into weekly agendas like that? Because they worked for me, but I'm just trying to find ways to spice them up a little bit for the students to try and increase engagement during the week.
Yeah. Are you in the U.S. History PLC at Rancho?
No, I'm World History at Alice Howe.
Oh, okay. I know that there are multiple history PLCs that are doing like slides, weekly slides. I have seen where your weekly slide is like a table of contents that links to, because sometimes if you get too many slides in a slide, it's hard to open, right? And then grading it can be hard because you have to wait for everyone to load to get through the pieces. So I have seen where students are given a copy of a Google slide or a Google Doc that is a table of contents that has links for weekly or daily lessons, or maybe one is for Monday, Tuesday, and one's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So there are ways to make it so it's not all on one big document. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you had a different, you know, if maybe you didn't want everything to be in Google Slides, maybe you wanted to go from Google Slides to Google Docs or different things, you would have a table of contents that they click from.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, because right now they just kind of scroll through the week, and so that's a good. I hadn't thought about doing like a table of contents type.
Even if you have a large Google slide and you have a table of contents in the beginning, like you can link to different slides, right? So I could, that way it makes it easier. So if I had a, you know, if this was my table of contents, I could hover over this, which is a link to auto draw, but I could change this, right? And I can link right here to slides in this presentation. So it's another helpful way. That way, if this is their first slide and it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when I press this, it's going to take me to that slide.
Have you found that Google Slides allows you to do a little bit more than Google Docs? Because right now I'm using Google Docs for my HyperDocs, and have you found that Google Slides is a little bit more interactive with what you can add?
I think that they're both useful for depending on what you're trying to do. Sometimes Google Slides can get too many slides and then it's hard to open. So if you're having more drag and drop or they're answering questions within it, then a Google Slide is probably better. But if you're having more links to click to outside places or you're having them work collaboratively, then sometimes I find that a Google Doc loads better.
Okay.
And yes, I can put here's the slides from this morning. Any other questions? Hopefully your brain's not overloaded.
Just to go back on what you were saying with Zachary, so in the Google Slides, you could do a link to the Google Doc for those times that you need a Google Doc. So it won't hinder the opening, right? Okay.
Yeah, I think it might be the U.S. history team at Rancho that has their beginning slide is like a table of contents where they can click Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it takes them to that chunk of slides. But if the Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday is a HyperDoc, then it links them to that document. But if you link a Google Doc in your slides, it's not going to make a copy, right? So you would want to have like a force copy so that it forces students to make a copy when they open it, or you would want to teach them how to make a copy of it. It's just kind of one more step because it's not as easy as putting it in your Google Classroom as making a copy for all.
So to go on that, if you may have them do a forced copy, does it show you who opened it? You know, because on Mondays we have to look to see if they've attempted or whatever. Does it show you who has accessed it?
If you had the link, if they had to open the slides to get to the forced copy, then it would show you who opened the Google slideshow. Yes.
Okay, but you can't do that as a make a copy to your students. They would still have to make their own copy, right?
Yeah. So if you had a presentation like this, right, and in here I had like make sure or click here to make a forced copy of this document, it would show me who opened this Google slide presentation. that make sense?
Yeah, as long as you don't make a copy for each student.
Yeah. You would have a link in here, and then you would change to make a copy. You change edit up here in the box where it says edit. You change this to copy. And now if I open this, it's going to force me to make a copy.
Okay. Thank you.
And if I'm the owner, I can just go back here and put edit, and it'll take me back to the editable version of it. What's the Google Drive folder called? This Google, the one that had all of the hyperdocs in it?
Yeah, yeah, the one with all the hyperdoc examples.
I don't know what it's called, but it's in here. It's this link here. I can throw it in the chat. And then you could pin it to your drive that way.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, so we are going to go on a 15-minute break. So we'll come back at 11:15. And when you come back at 11:15, you'll sign in again. And then basically that 45 minutes is just going to be time for you to play. So it's hopes that by the end of that 45 minutes, you have started creating a hyperdoc or found something that you already had and are using the tools to make it look different, or finding an example and making a copy of it. And then you'll be sharing your reflections or whatever you created on a Padlet at the end. So and then that 45 minutes, if I'll be in here. So if you have questions, or you want me to look at something, or maybe there's somebody in here that teaches the same content as you and you want to work together, that last 45 minutes is really about time for you to play and create something that you've learned. So you're just going to come back here. So I would just turn your camera off and mute and take your break, and I'll put this 15-minute timer on.